build your community, get the people who are going to speak truth to you, but also encourage you and build you up and say to you, yes, you can do this. So that is largely what my chapter is about, is how do you, if you are fearful, how do you get to the point where you say, man, I have a story to share and it matters and it can change lives.
Welcome to Growing Your Business with Buddy Broyles, helping businesses share their voice, build authority, and grow through meaningful conversations. On this special edition of Growing Your Business, we're joined by Barbara Giesing of BAGHR Consulting and Traci Poe of Public Speakers Growth Hub.
One of the reasons we wanted to come here on this podcast today was to talk about a book that we have coming out. And it's got a group of women entrepreneurs coming together to each write their own chapter. Traci, how did you come up with the idea of putting this group together and writing this book?
I wish I could take credit, Barbara, but I cannot. So years ago, when I was starting my business, I realized that women in business had to support each other. And so it just sort of fell into my lap that in addition to what I was doing with what I do with Communicate Great and the Public Speakers Growth Hub, is I fell into this group of women in business. And one of the members, Amy Vogel, is a publisher. And so she contacted me and said, hey, I have this idea for collaboration for the women in your group. Let's talk about it. And we had a conversation, and she pitched me this idea of opening up this collaborative book for the women in the group, which is what we did. And that's the genesis of the book. So I cannot take credit. It was not me, but I thought it was a great idea. I know a lot of the women in the group are beautiful souls, and they have so much wisdom to share. And I wanted to be able to get that knowledge, those nuggets of gold, out to people. And so that is why we're doing the book.
So what is it you're wanting to accomplish? What would you like to come out of this project?
It is specifically for women in business. The stories that each woman tell in their chapter, the strategies that they come up with, it is to help other women to be able to flourish in their businesses and to build their businesses. The subtitle is something like Stories and Strategies to Build or to Rise to the Business of Your Dreams. And the title of the book is Oh, Yes, I Did. And there's a whole story in how we came up with that. But the name of the Women in Business group is Oh, Yes, I Can. That is how we came up with the title. And so the idea then is that all of the women who were involved get to share their knowledge. And then that in turn has this ripple effect for all of the women who are reading the book. And now they have that knowledge. They can then take what they've learned and go apply it to what they do. Barbara, why don't you tell us what your chapter is about?
Okay, absolutely. I had always said I will never have my own business. That was never something I had any desire for. I grew up with my parents having their business, and I watched them work, and I watched them struggle, and I watched that they could never really take time off. And they did okay with the business. I mean, it paid the bills, and we were able to get by and everything. But again, it was just there were so many headaches and problems that it just wasn't going to happen. And I started out in the corporate world and worked for a global organization. A great experience of what not to do, because it was definitely a toxic environment, and I worked there much longer than I should have. But again, I learned a lot. I got to see how that an outfit with, 30,000 people in multiple countries and how that all worked. Then I went to a healthcare organization, and it was a mid-sized company, and I loved it. The owners were dedicated to the patients that we brought in, and it was a family-owned business and had grown over the years. This was where I was going to retire. Well, the owners didn't get my permission, but decided they were going to sell the company at one point. And they had always said they weren't going to sell, but just things came together, and it was the right time for them. And so when that happened, I started thinking, I had quite a bit of experience. Did I really want to? I didn't want to stay with the company because it turned out we were selling to a corporate environment that was nationwide. So I didn't want to go back into that kind of world. And I started getting the idea of maybe I should branch out on my own, because I was very fortunate in my career that I had the education, I had the licensing, I had the experiences that I could come in and help small businesses with their organization and help them be successful at a level they couldn't afford to bring in full time and didn't necessarily need full time. And so the more I thought about it, the more I thought, okay. And that was a really huge step for me as an introvert and as someone who is not a salesperson at all, and knowing I was going to have to put myself out there. And so my chapter is about the genesis of this and the reasons I chose some of the choices I made and how it's worked out. And it has worked out very well. So, Traci, why don't you tell us about your chapter?
You mentioned introvert. Okay, sister, I am such an introvert. That is just who I am. And on top of that, there are times that I'm very timid and shy. So here's some irony. Years ago, I ended up teaching public speaking in college for roughly 10 years. So the thought of me who did not ever want to be in front of people, I wanted to be in the back of the room, in the corner, just observing. And now I'm in front of a class full of people, teaching them how to be in front of other people. So there's just so many layers right there. But I ended up teaching, it's a long story, but that is part of what I talked about in my chapter, is this, how did I go from who I am with all of my fears and anxiety of being in front of people to standing in front of people. And part of that story is that I realized as I was teaching that stories and messages can change lives. And as I got to know my students and I poured into them and I invested in them, I saw these changes from night one. I taught night one to the last night, and this transformation and the confidence that they grew into as they started sharing their stories and learning how to go about it. So that is largely what my chapter is about, is how do you, if you are fearful, how do you get to the point where you say, man, I have a story to share and it matters and it can change lives. So that is the crux of where I want readers to get to in my chapter, is to realize they have something to share. They might be uncomfortable sharing it, but it is worth taking the stage virtually or otherwise. It's worth taking the stage to share your message. You can change lives. Barbara, why did you choose to participate in this project?
Well, I've always wanted to write. That's been kind of one of my hobbies. My degree, my bachelor's degree was in journalism, news editorial writing, and I took a detour from that into HR, which was part of my history. It's one of those where you learn to be neutral, and that just really worked well for an HR individual. But I've still enjoyed writing. That's always been a passion of mine. So I've wanted to write a book, and I've started a book on HR topics, but this gave me an opportunity to really get it moving and get going with something. And I also wanted to let individuals know that are out there thinking, should I or shouldn't I? And I know it's a trite expression, but if I can do it, you can do it. And if you believe in your product, if you have the experience and the knowledge to move forward, take a shot. Life is too short. We only get so much time as it is, and if we don't take some risks, we miss out on a lot of opportunities. Because I have probably one of the things that's been most surprising to me is how other entrepreneurs embrace each other. There is competition certainly out there, but it's not a cutthroat competition. It's how can I help you? How can I use you as a resource and you use me as a resource so that we can provide the best services available, especially with small businesses coming into play, because we all are struggling with different things. We all have our expertise and our lack of expertise in different areas. So again, it's getting the message out that, believe in yourself, use your talents, and take a stab at it, go for it. So that's what I wanted to try.
I like that you mentioned collaboration, because that was one of the whole things behind the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business group, is that I wanted people to see each other as collaborators rather than competitors, because that's huge when we can come together and say, here's what I'm working on, here's what you're working on, hey, let's figure out how to team up and really help each other, borrow each other's audiences, our lists, or whatever.
Exactly.
And be able to propel both of us forward. That's huge. I really like that you brought that up.
Right. Well, it's been a huge part of my journey. I could not be doing what I'm doing successfully without a lot of the help that I've had along the way. And it's very reaffirming. We have so much bad publicity out there in so many areas, but there are so many good people and so many good intentions, and I've loved seeing that, and I've really appreciated that in my life. So what are the plans for the book, getting it out, getting it publicized? What do you plan to do with that?
As a group, we are all going to individually, as the authors, publicize it, promote it within our own groups. But we're also doing some other things as a group, as a mastermind. That's how this project was run. As you know, we ran it more as a mastermind. And so everybody has their checklist of ways they're going to put it out. We are going to get it out on Amazon. I know that that's Amy's first thought, and then from there, I know Amy is going to get it out to some retailers. I'm not sure what's exactly on her list,
Right.
but she is going to be getting it out beyond Amazon, to my knowledge.
Okay. When is it going to come out?
That's a great question. Every year, the Oh Yes I Can Women has a summer summit, and it's always in July. And this year, it's July 17th, I believe, and that is when we're going to officially launch it and promote it, is during that summit for women in business. That's when we'll launch it. That's when we'll get it off. I'm not sure when our soft launch is going to be. I know that Amy is working on it now. The book is almost finished. I was looking at the cover. I need to show you the cover. I was looking at the cover just before I came, and we are getting so close to her being able to really put it out there. So I'm super excited about that.
I'm excited too. It's been interesting getting to know some of the women in the group, because it is a very diverse group of individuals. So to see this come together as one project is going to be exciting, and I'm anxious to see it myself. So
it'll be fun to be able to read all of our chapters, just to see, because we know each other through this mastermind experience. But now I get to see, oh, what does Barbara say? What does Traci say? What does
Right.
Faith say? What does Dominique say? What do all of the authors get to say, and what nuggets do they have to share? That's what's going to be exciting to me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Ready to amplify your brand's voice? At Blue Mike Studios, we transform your ideas into captivating podcasts and videos. Whether you're launching your own show or guest starring on ours, we've got you covered. From recording and editing to social media promotion. With state-of-the-art 4K video and crystal clear audio, your content will shine. We offer guest packages on our podcasts and offer segments from the show for you to share. Or let us help you build your own branded podcast with custom strategy, branding, and full production support. Visit BlueMikeStudios.com today and let your voice be heard.
Okay, we've been talking about the book for a minute, but now I really want to talk about what you do in your business. Here is my question for you. Where do companies often miss the mark?
One of the most basic things that a lot of companies do not do is put together job descriptions. And it seems so mundane, and especially for small businesses, because they think, I don't need that. I just need some help, especially when they're bringing in that first person to come in. I don't even know what all I need. I just have to get somebody in here. And that's a mistake, because what I'm thinking isn't going to be what you're thinking, and that's going to be the same experience you're going to have with an employee. So while you think some things are obvious, they're looking at things from a very different perspective. And if you have written out what you want and what you need and put that thought into it, they are much more likely to be successful at what you're bringing them in for and really be helpful to you in the organization. It gives you measures so that you know the expectation and they know the expectation. You're much less likely to have any kind of drama. One of the things I call myself is a drama exterminator as an HR consultant, because so often there's drama within the organizations that doesn't need to be there. And so the more clear your communications are, the more likely you'll be successful. Plus, if you write down your job description, that can help you determine what kind of skill set you need for the employee, what kind of hours you need. You may think you need full-time help, but then when you start looking at all the specifics you need, maybe part-time is fine. Maybe seasonal is something you need. So again, getting that much more defined explanation of what you need and how you need it delivered and what skill sets are required, that will absolutely help you get started in a much more positive way and have a much more likely successful outcome with the employees.
And I've never been on the HR side, so I can imagine, but I also can see very much that what you're saying is so important. And what I'm thinking is, if I'm hiring somebody and I haven't really thought it through, I just know I need help. I'm in survival mode. And I'm just trying to bring somebody in, but I'm not writing everything down. I'm not thinking it through. I bring somebody in, and that's costing me money.
Right.
And now it's not working well, and that's costing me money.
Right.
And now maybe I have to pivot and go in a different direction, which is costing me money. And if I would have been thinking, like you said in the very beginning, and going through and writing it all down and thinking everything through, I just saved myself a lot of hassle,
Right.
a lot of time, a lot of money. So I very much like that point that you just made. That's great.
Well, it's a reciprocal arrangement too. These are people's lives that we're affecting here, and when we're hiring them, they count on it for income. They count on it for what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. So if we're not helping them be successful either, that's on us. And so providing them with the tools that they need to be successful. Then when things don't work out, because sometimes they don't, you can be clear as everything and they still don't work out, that's okay. You know, maybe you and I weren't supposed to work together, and that's fine if that's the case, and we can part ways respectfully and honestly, as opposed to my employees doing things I don't like, but I'm not going to tell them because I'm just going to let the frustration build up, and then when I really get mad, I'll go yell at them and fire them. And that is typical of many organizations. It's not thought through that way, but that's the reality of the situation. Whereas if you see something that you don't particularly like, they're doing something that you weren't expecting, go talk to them and talk to them with curiosity. Can you explain what you're doing and what your thought process is? Because this is how I saw it. So, and maybe they have a better way of doing things, maybe not, but you can put them on the right path right away as opposed to helping them create bad habits. So that's a lot of it.
Communication, wow.
Yeah, what a concept.
What a concept. Let's communicate.
And speaking of communication, I know that's the kind of the genesis of your organization. So tell us about Oh Yes I Can, what you hope to accomplish with that, why you put it together, and what it is you do.
It really just kind of fell into my lap. So when I started Communicate Great, my company, I was speaking with my daughter, and I talked about, I really feel like women in business have to support each other. And she knew that I wanted to get into retreats and conferences and webinars and seminars and all of the things, all of the R's. And she said, Mom, why don't you just do a conference for women in business? And I thought, that's a great idea. So what I thought was going to be a one-time thing, or maybe an annual thing, turned into now we're doing at least monthly events. Most of them are virtual. And again, the idea that we can come together and we can collaborate and we can share ideas and bounce things off each other. And hey, I did this worked for me. What's working for you? That is the whole idea behind the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business. And I want to tell you what started the Oh Yes I Can. When I was going to do this one-day conference that I started thinking about it, and I thought it has to be called Oh Yes I Can, the conference. Oh Yes I Can. And that harkens back to when I was teaching public speaking, because I had these students in my class who they didn't want to be there. It was a required course. They had to be there if they wanted their degree. And as we would talk about their anxiety, their fears, I would say, yes, you can do this, and I'm going to do this with you. I've got you. You can make it through. Mm-hmm. So the idea of struggling as a woman entrepreneur, I just had to get the message out. Oh, yes, you can. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, you can. And so that's why it's called Oh, Yes, I Can, Women in Business.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. And it's, to your point, collaboration and communication are key. And it's so helpful to have other women to bounce ideas off of.
Yes,
so
it is. It's tremendously helpful.
Very, very nice. Well, kind of wrapping things up here, if there was a message you would want to give a woman who's either just started their business or about to start their business, what would you want to say to her?
Aside from, oh, yes, you can, I would say that you need to find your network quickly before you start making a lot of decisions. And here is why. If you're surrounding yourself with people who are not just being yes people where they're just saying, oh, great idea, even if they don't think it is. That's not the inauthenticity that I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a real conversation with somebody, but knowing that even if they say, have you thought about this? Maybe you should rethink this. They're coming at it from a place of genuine concern and genuine love for you. Build your community, get the people who are going to speak truth to you, but also encourage you and build you up and say to you, yes, you can do this.
Absolutely. That makes a huge difference, getting that, helping build your confidence in starting a business.
So right back at you, what would you say to somebody who is going to be starting a business or thinking about starting a business? What advice?
Right. Years ago, I would have said run, but I have learned from that and changed my opinion on that entirely. The thing that probably helped me the most, and a lot of that's my personality, is figuring out where my deficits were to start with. So the first thing I did was get an IT group to help me with the technical aspects of just security and different things like that, and a bookkeeper, because those are two things I knew I didn't want to have to do and wouldn't necessarily know the rules and regulations. So that gave me the confidence then to move on to other pieces of the business where I could excel, and I did know what I was doing and how. So getting those resources together was key in helping me to keep going. And there are so many great resources available to us, depending on where you live, what kind of market area you're in, and of course what your products and services are. I found so many free resources out there which were great, and I would encourage any woman thinking about it to start putting together her list of what she needs, what she has, what she wants to accomplish, and start planning and making that business plan, because that will help her think things through and get started in a successful way.
That is great advice. Great advice.